Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, join me, Rob McConnell, as together we'll investigate the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology here on the X-Zone Radio TV show on XZBN and the X-Zone TV channel on Simul TV. Since 1990, the X-Zone Radio TV show has been the place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. Together, we'll investigate UFOs, aliens, ghosts, Bigfoot, psychic phenomenon, lake monsters, conspiracy theories, government cover-ups, the truth embargo, alien abductions, ESP, haunted locations from around the world, and so much more. With over 28 years of broadcasting and more than 4,500 individual guests, the X-Zone is truly a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality, as evidenced by the credibility, integrity, and professionalism of the guests that we bring to our international audience. If you have seen a UFO, had a close encounter, seen a ghost, Bigfoot, lake monster, or a story that you would like to share or have investigated, contact me, Rob McConnell, by sending me your email to xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, or you can call toll-free 1-800-610-7035, extension 143, and on Skype, X-Zone Radio TV. For more information on the X-Zone Radio TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, visit www.xzoneradiotv.com or www.xzonetvchannel.com or simultv.com and xzbn.net. Until next we meet here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, always remember, X-Zone Nation, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart in the light.
Welcome back to another episode of Cal's Corner Radio here on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. My name is Kal Korff and I'm your host. The executive producer of the show is Rob McConnell. As I say at the top of each episode, as you know, for those who listen to the show regularly, we cover on the show everything from politics to the paranormal. It's a wide variety of subjects. Anything goes. Usually the shows are unscripted, of course, and freeform, which is the way I like it. That way we can be flexible and respond to current events. So let's talk about current events real quick around the world. As you know, everybody had, at least in the western part of the world, and now in a lot of parts of Europe, what we call Black Friday has become global. I noticed this in Europe when I lived there years ago. I lived in Europe for 10 years before I went to India. And even the day after American Thanksgiving, because Indians in India don't care about Thanksgiving, neither do most Europeans, but Black Friday they do care about, I guess because they think it's some big shopping day or something like that. And the statistics so far are mixed as far as how this year's one is going. In fact, there was a headline yesterday in the news that many Americans, and may have said most, I'm not quite sure I remember that headline correctly, whether it was most or many, but it at least said many as a minimum. Americans are still in debt from last year's Black Friday, so who knows? Who knows how things are going to go? What we can say, however, and this is interesting, depends on which side of the, let's say, pot of gold you're on this equation, online sales continue to increase. Increasingly, of course, this means that more people are getting their stuff online as opposed to going to physical shops. That's good and bad depending on who you are. It's good for companies like Amazon. It is devastating and, in fact, fatal for mom and pop type shops. So what is that causing? It's causing a very interesting dynamic to be out there in the market. On the one hand, you have the rise of the so-called cheap mass goods stores like Dollar Trees, Dollar General, so on. They're consolidating, they're expanding. Tens of thousands of these things opening up in all 48 states in the U.S., where everything is $1 or less, or $1 to say $5. And you have above that, you have the Walmarts. But even with Walmart, things are changing. In the last year, year and a half, people have noticed and complained, I understand that, about a spike in their prices, that they're no longer the bargain they used to be. There's better alternatives out there. And of course, people who complain about that are generally right. What people don't think about with Walmart, at least the longtime customers, is that their business model is kind of changing, if you will. Their sales increasingly are coming from online, not physical. And as one popular joke making the rounds nowadays says, that one day Walmart will be closed for Thanksgiving to celebrate or honor the two people, the clerks that work for it. The rest are robots online or whatever. If you go to a Walmart today, you'll see that there's many check stands open as long as you want to wait on yourself, of course. All right, then there's Amazon.com, king of the retail ultimate experience, right? They continue to benefit, from the online trend and people moving online for sales. Other online giants like Apple and so on benefit from that. On the other hand, stores like Macy's, they have to figure out what they want to be when they grow up as far as how to handle the online thing. Not sure they're going to pull it off. More shakeups are, of course, occurring. Now, worldwide, you have some interesting events going on. There continues to be unrest in the Islamo-fascist government country of Iran. Let's be honest, it's a religious dictatorship there. Ayatollah Khamenei runs everything. And of course, what they've been doing, and it's really even a new low for the Iranian government standards of terror on its own citizens, crimes against humanity. Not only are they shooting innocent protesters across the country, but they actually go in the intelligence services. Word is leaked out now. Proof has come out about this. And of course, the UN does nothing about it. They're the UN, of course. They have actually been stealing bodies from the morgues to reduce, at least in the official reporting and the propaganda, the news to their own people, the number of innocent people that they have been slaughtering. And yes, it has been a slaughter. Now, what has triggered this massive uprising across the country and over 100 cities, and it's much bigger than that, many times bigger than the authorities are letting the world, misleading the world to believe. And of course, dictatorships do that. They like to keep real news from their own people and especially the outside world. What caused this? Well, believe it or not, it was a spike in the rise of gasoline prices. Now, that wasn't the only catalyst, but it was kind of like the last insult and final straw. Iran, of course, always promised its citizens, especially after the Islamic Revolution, because they're not supposed to be greedy guys, right? Ayatollah Khamenei is one of the richest guys on the planet. Don't be conned by these religious frauds, and they are exactly that. Nobody who sits in any position of power in the corrupt Iranian regime is hurting for money. Again, you can do basic research to prove all of this. It's not a secret. They'll deny it, of course, but these guys don't stand for truth. That's not why they're in power. That's not why they treat the people, their own citizens, the way they do. So what happened is the increase in the gas prices it was a spark, a catalyst that people said enough. And they've had enough of this regime for a long time, increasingly for decades now, going back to the time when George Bush was president of the United States, the early 2000s. To give you a time perspective, there have been outbreaks here and there over the years of violence against the regime. And of course, they've responded the way they always do. They murder innocent people. That's how they stay in power. That's how communist China stays in power. Speaking of communist China, you have, of course, American President Donald Trump. He has come under criticism from China, boo-hoo, for signing essentially the accord or the statement, the resolution, if you will, about Hong Kong and the support of the protesters there. Again, it's not going to change Hong Kong. It is a symbolic gesture at most. People were afraid that Trump wasn't going to sign it because he's interested in getting a trade deal with China. If Trump had said, I'm not going to sign it because I want a trade deal instead, he should be condemned. In fact, in my opinion, no person who sits in the White House who's worthy of being in that office would go ahead and dare not sign an accord in support of human rights, especially in the Hong Kong situation. Again, if America doesn't lead the world in championing real freedom, democracy, as it should be done, not the kind of stuff that America, unfortunately and shamefully, historically has backed in the past. They've done good things. They've also done bad things. Just look at all the corrupt dictatorships in Latin America. As long as they're our corrupt dictatorships, America's foreign policy has been over the decades, that's okay, as long as they're not Russia's foreign or corrupt dictators, right? Again, that's not the right way to run things, but let's be honest, that's how it has been done, and it's not right. So, the issue of Hong Kong, we know that China is going to take over with global permission. It's in an official agreement that the civilized West said, okay, specifically Great Britain. In a couple of years, they're going to completely take over Hong Kong, and they're going to turn it into mini Beijing and all the wonderful stuff that goes with that, including the lack of freedoms. What is happening in China today is absolutely terrible, and yet the world doesn't really care, which is another thing that is beyond terrible. It is the modern equivalent of watching Adolf Hitler rise to power once again. He's going to start a world war, you know it. He's talking about it. He's arming for it. He's locking people up. He's preparing for it. He's bending over backwards, holding rallies, showing off the military. Again, China is proud of what they're doing. They believe that what they're doing is the right thing to do, the blueprint for the future of the human race. That is why by the year 2050, they want to be the only superpower, literally the only one, and they will dictate all relevant terms to the rest of the world once they reach that level, if it gets to that point. Well, how do you stop it from getting to that point? You simply tell China no. But for some reason, and it's due to greed and stupidity, combine the both, you've got a lose-lose situation. Not enough countries are saying no. Instead, you've got African governments who are corrupt, of course. They'll just take the money. They don't care who writes the check or gives them the gold. They don't care. They don't care about their people. They care only about themselves. They take the money, they run. And then when, surprise, surprise, Dictator X cannot repay the loan to China, even on generous terms, China moves in and seizes whatever assets as collateral legally with a smile, and nobody cares. And they're doing this slowly and systematically all over the world. The cover for this is a dual Trojan horse. It's kind of like having the old Trojan horse from the old Trojan War story, where you have a horse loaded with soldiers who, once they bring this hollow horse into the city, behind the city walls, the army leaves that horse. Then they go in and kill and take over the city, open the city gates, let their fellow army men in. They take over the city, sack it, destroy it, etc. That is what China is doing, but they're using the cover of what they euphemistically call the Silk Road. And it's not the Silk Road. It's not even a revitalization of the Silk Road, because the Silk Road never went as far as what China is determined to make this version of the Silk Road, the modern one, that they intend to build, partnering with all these other countries, literally allowing a truck or boat or anything to go from point A to Z across all the continents to distribute anything, including if you even ordered one pair of dice. It doesn't matter. That is what China is working towards. Now, after the commercial break, I'll break it down for you, because I've reported on this from India firsthand, and I can tell you exactly what's going on over there. And unfortunately, again, the world doesn't care. We'll be back after this commercial break.
It's hard to listen to the news without realizing we're living in volatile, unprecedented times. Yet never has there been such an opportunity to transform the human condition. As old structures fail, where can we find the guidance to co-create a better way? Find Your Path Home is an ever-evolving, leading-edge information, education, and healing resource center designed to support and guide you on your path to unity and enlightenment. Based on sound principles employed by shaman worldwide, we provide techniques that can support you through the current transitions, offering online shamanic classes, international long-distance shamanic healing sessions, complimentary Mission Evolution radio episodes and Stairway to Heaven TV vignettes, seminars, retreats, and much more. All of this can be found on findyourpathhome.com.
So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she'd come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me. simultv.com, sonny boy.
simultv.com.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
simultv.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. simultv.com.
Shamanic healing is the key to personal empowerment. Why? All four levels of our being, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, must be addressed for us to enjoy balanced, healthy, abundant lives. Yet there are few provisions for spiritual or energetic healing. Shamanism, found at the root of all cultures, is a very effective spiritual healing modality. To find quality shamanic healing you can trust, regardless of where you live, look no further than Find Your Path Home Long-Distance Shamanic Healing Program. All Path Home long-distance healing practitioners have been trained and certified through Path Home Shamanic Art School. Change your life. Live abundantly. Schedule a long-distance shamanic healing session with Wilda Wieka or one of her quality practitioners today at findyourpathhome.com.
Second segment here on Kal's Corner Radio and the X Zone Broadcast Network. Once again, my name is Kal Korff and I'm your host. The executive producer of the show is Rob McConnell. Now, we're talking about communist China, Pakistan, what they're really up to using the cover of the so-called Silk Road. Let me back up a little bit and lay some foundational stuff here that, again, anybody checking this can verify what it is that I'm about to share with you. I have reported on this from India, up near the Pak border in Punjab, and what I'm about to share with you is all true. It's been published. Let me kind of summarize it. Now, in Asia, where you have India, Pakistan, Russia, China, they're all neighbors. They're all nuclear powers. This is the only area on the planet where you have this combination and this disproportionate huge number of people. Most of the people live in these countries, okay? I'm talking about most of the people, in the world as far as these four countries and their population. Russia isn't huge. It is geographically, but not population-wise. Pakistan is not huge either, but China and Russia are the two most populous countries in the world in the history of the human race, and India is about to pass China to become number one, with China being a number two. Now, why is that important? It is important because ultimately, all of this boils down to babies. Let's be blunt. To paraphrase something that Yasser Arafat threatened the Jewish state of Israel with, he said during one of his many delusional moments of grandeur that he would eventually destroy Israel because they would have many babies, and they would eventually overwhelm the Jewish state and take it over, and that they would eventually use democracy to vote out the existence of Israel itself. Well, likely not going to happen, but demographics are, of course, vital. If you look at what's happening in the United States right now, because so many things are political, as the upcoming book that I've written with Rob McConnell proves, and you may say, why are you bringing this up? What does this have to do with China? Well, I'll explain why there's kind of not China, but a connection here on human beliefs. things have become so polarized in society today that you can pretty much size up someone, at least in America, whether they're a Democrat, an independent, or so-called liberal, but independent, or a Republican. And you can do that just by looking at their beliefs on the paranormal. I'm not making this up, folks. Again, I'm going to repeat what I said. If you tell me, and I have no psychic powers at all, I don't pretend that I do. If you tell me what your beliefs are in the paranormal, let's say that you say, yeah, the U.S. government is hiding something about UFOs, and you cite Roswell as an example, you cite Bob Lazar, you cite Annie Jacobson, you cite Billy Meyer, name your favorite BS conspiracy case, whatever. If you say that that's the case, there's about a 62% chance that you are a beautiful example of a Democrat. Yes, I'm not making this up. In fact, a YouGov poll identified all this, and it's really scary. It showed that basically tens of millions of so-called educated Americans believe in the most ridiculous things out there. The numbers are frightening. But 62% of all Democrats know the U.S. government is hiding something about UFOs. So when I later see Harry Reid and John Podesta talking about the cosmic Watergate, well, I'm not surprised because they're the epitome of what the Democrats are. Okay? Now, 62% of Democrats believe in Roswell and the government's hiding something about UFOs. 23%, huge gap, of Republicans believe the same nonsense. Again, 62% Democrats, only 23% of the Republicans believe like Harry Reid does. Okay, that's scary. Now, who are the sane group among these three major political identification groups here? Again, Democrats, Republicans, Independents. It turns out that the Independents are the sane ones because only 15% of them believe this kind of nonsense. The Republicans are slightly less sane at 23%. It's not a huge jump between 15 versus 23%, but there is a huge jump, almost 30 points, from 23% for the Republicans versus 62% for the Democrats. Now, this is just overall across the board. When you get down to the millennials, the so-called most educated generation in the history of humanity, you know, these right-click wonders that are out there, it gets even worse. It's all good. Everything is all aliens, you know. In fact, their view is that you are not normal if you don't believe in the cosmic Watergate. And I know this because I engage some of these clowns online frequently. It's because there's so many of them out there. You can't even delve into the subject seriously without running over some of them, okay? So I'll give you a few examples here real quickly. You know, again, the word debunker. Thanks, Stanton Friedman. This was just something that really has harmed society. I'm sorry. He managed and created all this where the word debunker suddenly meant somebody who has a closed mind. Yet, according to the dictionary, even still today, thankfully, some sanity here. Look it up. Debunker doesn't mean anything close to that. Debunk means to separate bunk from fiction, fact from fiction, okay? Bunk means something that isn't true, all right? So everyone knows that the D, a prefix added to a word in English, means you're removing something. If you're drinking decaffeinated coffee, it has no caffeine in it. Come on, all right? If you've been demoted, it's the opposite of promoted, all right? Everyone knows what D whatever means. So debunk, hello, but in ufology, not ufology, let's be honest, UFOOlogy, it means you got a closed mind. Debunking is evil. In fact, you might be part of the cosmic Watergate yourself, or you might be a man in black. I guess, no, they don't wear any of the colors, right? It's ridiculous. All right, so that's what you got today among millennials. I call them UFO believers, named in honor of Justin Bieber. People who are hardcore Justin Bieber fans are believers. And the reason I named them this, I made up the term, I admit it, I'm guilty, is because Justin believers, they don't care what he does, it's all good. Literally, when he gets busted by the police for urinating in public, it's all good. He's Justin. No matter what he does, it's all good. UFO believers have the same psychosis. Everything is all aliens. It's all whatever. And they just won't address facts, or they accuse you of being part of the whatever delusion they've got going on. It's all good. All right? That's a UFO believer. So again, folks, I've talked about this before. It's in a single chapter in the upcoming Annie Jacobson expose book on, ufology versus UFOlogy. It's volume 1 of this series. Ufology, to remind people and the UFO believers out there, the so-called disclosure types, which is comical because there hasn't been disclosure. So you can't be a disclosure type if it doesn't exist. It's just bizarre how they think, folks. Anyway, in a chapter in this book, it tells you from the dictionary, the most authoritative source in the English language, the Oxford English Dictionary, they're the custodians of the English language, says very clearly what a debunker is. And it even uses the paranormal as an example. It says very clearly here, okay, expose the falseness or hollowness of a myth, idea, or belief. Example, the magazine that debunks claims of the paranormal. Hallelujah. That is the official definition of the word debunk. Nowhere does it say it's evil. You have a closed mind. You're part of the cosmic Watergate. And the reason I harp on that is because when I was researching my book, The Roswell UFO Crash, what they don't want you to know, they being the UFO conspiracy nuts who say it's all aliens. These are those top UFO Roswells out there who, I'm sorry to tell you folks, have lied to you. That is the only way to explain it. Believe me, I tried to blow as much innocence their way as I could. But when you trace down the original source that they're quoting or citing, and just like the JFK conspiracy stuff, the guy didn't really say that. I'm sorry, it's just not true. So again, you were lied to. Others got the research wrong, mixture of both, okay? But I'm one of the 4 original Roswell researchers. There's only 3 left alive, all right? And both have come out and have endorsed my book. What does that tell you? Even Bill Moore, the original author of the Roswell incident with Charles Berlitz, endorsed my book and the conclusion that it doesn't matter what UFO deniers claim, and they are deniers of truth. It was mogul. Sorry, folks, get over it. If it was mogul, and it was mogul, real history matters. Anything Annie Jacobson or anybody says about Roswell being caused by Stalin, working with the angel of death, Dr. Joseph Mengele, the guy who sent over 1 million people to their death at Auschwitz, surgically altering 2 children, putting them in a Horton Brothers Batwing aircraft that was captured by the Nazis after World War II, modified so it could fly 5 times the range, over 5,000 miles, sent to Roswell to crash near Roswell to spook the American public. Come on, folks. The moment they found a very obvious Nazi vehicle, they already had the Horton brothers. They were working with the U.S. government. They had their aircraft. What shock would there have been? It would have totally been stupid. They would have known Russia had done it. Anyway, the whole thing is ridiculous, but yet there are people who believe it. And we'll come back to that after the commercial break.
Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, join me, Rob McConnell, as together we'll investigate the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology here on the X-Zone Radio TV show on XZBN and the X-Zone TV channel on Simul TV. Since 1990, the X-Zone Radio TV show has been the place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. Together, we'll investigate UFOs, aliens, ghosts, Bigfoot, psychic phenomena, lake monsters, conspiracy theories, government cover-ups, the truth embargo, alien abductions, ESP, haunted locations from around the world, and so much more. With over 28 years of broadcasting and more than 4,500 individual guests, the X Zone is truly a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality, as evidenced by the credibility, integrity, and professionalism of the guests that we bring to our international audience. If you have seen a UFO, had a close encounter, seen a ghost, Bigfoot, lake monster, or a story that you would like to share or have investigated, contact me, Rob McConnell, by sending me your email to xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, or you can call toll-free 1-800-610-7035, extension 143, and on Skype, X Zone Radio TV. For more information on the X Zone Radio TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, visit www.xzoneradiotv.com or www.xzonetvchannel.com or simultv.com and xzbn.net. Until next we meet here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, always remember, X Zone Nation, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart in the light.
Welcome back to the third segment here on Kal's Corner Radio and the X Zone Broadcast Network. My name is Kal Korff. I'm your host. The executive producer of the show is Rob McConnell. And we're talking about Annie Jacobsen. We're talking about conspiracy stuff. We're talking about Roswell. We were talking about, which started this whole point, that things have become so polarized today that you can tell from what they believe in, meaning choose your conspiracy. In this case, is the U.S. government hiding something about UFOs and Roswell and all that? If you ask people, Americans, it's unique to America. The numbers are way lower in other countries. And having been to 27 of them, I can tell you that people outside America don't really give a rip about Roswell, and you can't blame them. In America, it's ridiculously the opposite. Just enough people to drive credibility out the window as far as where the mainstream media has gone in covering the subject. And I know that because I've dealt with them over the years and seen how they've gone left field on this. Same with JFK's assassination. It is disturbing when networks like CNN broadcast something years later that undoes milestones that they did years earlier. It's like they just want to ignore what they've done in the past, yet they can't take that out of history. Ignoring it doesn't change it. It doesn't, pretending it doesn't exist doesn't make it go away, doesn't undo that it really happened. You're just not only making a fool out of yourself, you're lying at that point, especially if you're the same entity trying to undo, which you don't really manage to undo. You just say the opposite of what you earlier had proved, which means you're now lying. And that's exactly what has happened with many of these subjects. And let me just go over one group of final stats for you that shows how convoluted this has become. Now, again, Democrats, 62% of them believe that the U.S. government is hiding something about UFOs. Okay? Democrats believe far more than any other group that the Roswell UFO crash involved the secret crash and recovery of a UFO with dead aliens. Okay? Now, compared to that, overall, the Republicans, only 23% believe the same thing versus 62%, almost 30% more for the Democrats. Whereas the independents, okay, they believe in an even fewer number, 15%. Now, as far as a national average goes, okay, you find that the Democrats are even above the national average. If you were to take the number of Democrats who believe in the different conspiracies, you were to try to break down them by political parties, we're talking about the 23% of the Republicans who don't believe in Roswell versus the 34% of say independents that, or I'm sorry, 15% that don't believe in it. You average all these numbers, and you see that the Democrats are left of even left, okay? Because overall, averaging all these numbers, 54% of the American population, slightly over half, believes in, the U.S. government is hiding something. So you say, well, the Democrats are with the majority then, right? Well, not quite, because 54% is different than 62%. It's significantly beyond 54%. So you can't say, well, they're just in line with what most people believe. 54% is barely most, and the margin for error in this survey was 3%. So it actually could be 51%. That number has been pretty much consistent for the UFO thing ever since Roswell exploded as a cultural myth. Now, as far as the overall who don't believe in it, that number is 27%. The Republicans are closest to it at 23%. The people who are uncertain is 19%. And independents, okay, are, again, down to 15%. So they're more conservative in that view than even the national average. So those, again, are some interesting statistics. It has become this polarized because, as Stanton Friedman ironically warned and talked about, and I remember this from him, he said this to me when we first met, and he was right. He said it to me many times. He said, and he paraphrased the famed physicist Max Planck, he said that new ideas come into being not because people accept them at first, they resist them, but because a new generation is born that grows up accustomed to them, and their opponents die. So this is exactly what has happened. If you look at what's going on today, you have a new generation of kids who grow up with the X-Files. They grow up with Captain Marvel, the Marvel movies. They're nothing like today like they used to be in the 60s when, people like Robin McConnell and I used to remember watching these very badly drawn primitive Spider-Man cartoons that used to be on there, where only the arm would move, the body wouldn't. Nowadays, they've got the best special effects in the world. They win Oscars. The biggest movie of all time is the fourth installment of the Avengers movie. They're big 6-hour epic or 3-hour epic cinematic productions on a scale never seen before. This is what this generation grows up with. So, of course, they're predisposed to all this stuff. MJ-12, Roswell, Cosmic Watergate, X-Files. Again, these are popular terms in American culture. And because American culture, on top of this, independent of whether there's really aliens stuffed away in pickle jars at Area 51, when they start playing with words and twisting them so that they no longer mean what they really should and really do, let's be blunt, what they really do, then, as I say, Houston, we've got a problem. And probably the greatest example of this, and we've talked about this in one of the shows before, more than one, is the so-called gender identity. I remember, I think it was just a couple weeks ago, I don't remember the exact date, but I had to fill out some paperwork. It was actually concerning a doctor. And there were a couple of sets of forms, and it was supposed to be one happy family. On one form, I'm asked what gender I am, and I, of course, said male because I am. Then on another form, it says, what gender do I identify as? And I just already answered man. So the idea that I'm a man but I identify as something else, why are they even asking me this? And what does that have to do with the medical condition? Because it's irrelevant. I can identify as a flea or a grasshopper or anything I want. I can pretend to be anything I want. It doesn't mean I am, okay? So I don't understand why I have to answer that question. So I asked the lady, why are you asking me this? And she says, I have to. She had to. That is the rule, okay? That's how far we progressed, folks. You have to ask people, what do you pretend you are? Okay? Even if it's nothing, I'm just me. I'm not pretending to be anything. I'm just me. I'm a man. Okay? Again, it just cracks me up. And then on some of this gender identity stuff, they'll say, what gender do you think you are? And, of course, what were you? Well, you were a man or a woman. You still are a man or a woman. So anyway, again, when you have a society like that, combined with other wonderful stuff like, in California, you can just openly defecate in the public. It's legal now. It's like India. Well, no, in India it's actually illegal. They finally outlawed it recently. But in America now, especially San Francisco, it's legal. Okay, and it's also legal now. It's just a ticket if you steal something that's worth less than $940. And so, guess what's happened to, thefts? They've gone through the roof. So again, as long as we have this type of flexibility in our society, where people need safe spaces, and it's wrong to disagree because you don't want to disagree with anyone on the left because they're intolerant and they're not understanding, and you're wrong and they're always right. Again, when you have this type of stupidity going on, no wonder you have people who gather in, or say they were going to gather in large numbers to storm Area 51. It's really delusional. But again, that's the kind of society that we're seeing an increasing example of because people just are allowing it to happen. And see, that's the key here. Same with what's going on in Hong Kong and everything else. I keep hearing that, well, we can't solve this, we can't solve that. No, we can solve it because we caused it, okay? Who caused the gender identity stupidity? I don't know of a single person. I don't think it was one person. Worse, it was more than one. But the point is we can fix it because we caused it. It's imaginary. There are no such thing, literally, as over 100 genders. There's male, female, a mixture of both, depending on the biology. Some creatures are both. Some are hermaphrodites, just themselves. They can reproduce whenever they want. Mother Nature's amazing. But don't start, calling a toad something it isn't. It's a toad, a frog, a giraffe, whatever. Quit projecting what you want to be for whatever reason and saying it's the same thing because it's not. There is no such thing as being a little bit pregnant, to use an analogy which is actually pretty accurate. If we would just remember that, I think a lot of things that are very important, which tend to be binary, would be solved and addressed, and we wouldn't have this stupidity going on. But we just don't do that. And increasingly, we do the opposite, and that is the problem. Now, when you have this going on issues that are way more important than, say, studying UFOs and the paranormal, you have, again, ufology, you've got UFOlogy. They're not the same thing. But most of what I see that is popular ufology today really is UFOlogy. And UFOlogy is not a fun term, meaning you're just mocking something. It's a real term. I learned it from Stanton Friedman when I was a boy. When I first met him, he said it's basically when you make statements and conclusions about UFOs that are not derivable from the data. It's not true. That's a ufologist. And he said a ufologist was somebody who studied UFOs. Well, I've refined that definition to be more accurate. You don't study UFOs. We'll come back to that point after this break.
If you are looking for a safe, zero-calorie natural option to the harmful artificial sweeteners on the market today, Just Like Sugar is what you're looking for. Just Like Sugar is a wonderful natural alternative for those health-conscious people who choose a calorie-restricted diet with a great, pure, sweet flavor that tastes just like sugar. Just Like Sugar is a great natural option for people suffering from diabetes and may be useful in restricted diet programs where standard sugars are not allowed and does not cause a laxative effect of some other sweeteners. Just Like Sugar comprises a perfect blend of chicory root fiber, natural calcium, natural vitamin C, and Just Like Sugar's sweetness comes from the natural flavors from the peel of the orange. Just Like Sugar is a natural alternative to harmful artificial sweeteners and will change the way that you believe all natural sweetener products taste. Just Like Sugar is available at your local Whole Foods markets, Wild Oats markets, Henry's, Sun Harvest, and many other fine natural food stores in the U.S., Canada, and worldwide.
They are here, and they've been here for thousands of years, making their presence known in the shadows. They might be seen by a lonely motorist on a deserted road late at night, or by a frightened and confused husband in the bedroom he is sharing with his wife. But who are they? What do they want? Why are they here? Perhaps most concerning, has the government been aware of their presence all along? The new book by L.A. Marzulli, UFO Disclosure, The 70-Year Cover-Up Exposed, delves into the world of UFOs. Can full disclosure be soon? Order now and receive a free hour and 37-minute DVD on the UFO phenomenon. UFOs are real. Get both the book and the DVD, a $40 value, for only $19.99. To order your book and DVD today, go to lamarzulli.net. That's LAMARZULLI.net.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X-Zone, Sci-Fi, and Horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world, interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
Memorable dynamic presentations are a not-so-secret weapon in the business world. Do you have a powerful message that must be shared, but you haven't found a way to deliver that message? Do you want to be known as a top public speaker who gets amazing results? Are you ready to create and deliver your powerful message? Thomas Hides can help you create and deliver your speech to get the results you desire. Visit iconquality.com.
Did you expect your business to flourish, but instead it plateaued or didn't get off the ground yet? Would you like to achieve massive goals and discover new sources of income within your business? When you're ready to experience that type of success with fast results, Cindy Hendricks is the business coach for you. Her work with entrepreneurs and business owners has been life-changing. To get you and your business where you want to be, go to imaginemoresuccess.com.
Has the fear of public speaking stalled your business or personal life? What would you give to develop and maintain supreme confidence? Have an invaluable private program to always perform at your best. Imagine how you would feel. You can have all that and so much more today with Thomas Hides' life-changing course called Number One Fear Unleashed. Visit numberonefear.com and be liberated from your fear of public speaking.
Welcome back to the fourth and final segment here on Kal's Corner Radio Show. My name is Kal Korff. I'm your host. The executive producer of the show is Rob McConnell. Now, we were talking about the difference in the definitions between the two terms UFOlogy and UFOlogy. They're very real words. The reason I mention both of them is because today, most of what passes for so-called ufology really is UFOlogy, meaning people are saying things that are not derivable from the data. In other words, it's not true. There's a difference between those who are just mistaken, blindly parroting things, they don't know any better because they saw it on Google, so it must be true, right? Versus those who are saying things, citing data or not citing it because they can't, doesn't exist, pulling it out of whatever orifice pleases them, and it's just a bunch of hooey, okay? And I'll give you a couple examples of that in a moment. But let's finish the definition clarity here because it is important. So again, a key problem, and it's foundational with UFOs today and people who study them, not UFOs, but the people who study them, is they don't use the word debunker properly, okay? If you want to test their integrity, ask them what the word debunker means. And if it means anything other than what the dictionary says, well, ignore them, okay? Now, they often are UFO believers, which means the first thing they think of is it's aliens. In other words, they're just bass-ackwards from what it should be. The way that you do proper study of UFO data is that you ignore the possibility that it's aliens. You just forget about it. Don't even think about it. Instead, you chase everything else down. If you've done that, if you're able to, almost no case allows you to do that, unfortunately. Once you've eliminated all this stuff except aliens, whatever is left, if it's aliens, well, there you go, bingo, there's the answer, okay? It's basic logic 101. It's kind of like matching a fingerprint, okay? You eliminate everybody except the one thing it matches. Duh. So you don't go bugging 7 billion people. Is this your fingerprint? Is this your fingerprint? Let me check. No, you eliminate them. And what you got left is the one match, and there's your guilty suspect. In this case, we have no cases, none that I know of. Maybe I'm wrong, but please prove me wrong. I don't mind being wrong on the subject. I've got no ego in it. I would love to go down in history, folks, as the person who was wrong about UFOs and the cosmic Watergate. And not only was I wrong, this is the case that proved me wrong. I would just say I'm wrong, and I'm proud because we now know the truth, and the truth is aliens. Hallelujah. I'm happy to have helped that process come to the Great Awakening in history, whatever you want to call it. Sign me up. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm in the hunt for it like a lot of other people, but my approach is more old school, the way that ufology used to be, but no longer is, despite all this whiz-bang technology today and these so-called educated millennials who know everything, of course, at least based on what they say. All right, so what is ufology? It's not UFOlogy. We know what UFOlogy is. Again, it's making statements that are not derivable from the data, okay? If you say that there's no evidence that Billy Meyer's photos are a hoax, well, you're wrong. You are a ufologist when you say that, because all the data exists proving they are a hoax. Been there, done that, was done in the 70s, get over it. Now, what is a ufologist? A ufologist studies UFO data scientifically where possible, meaning ufology itself is the scientific study of UFO data. The data comes in different forms: sightings, photos, video, radar trackings, physical evidence, traces on the ground, so-called abductions. It's all over the map. But there are categories to group this into. I devised sets that extended Hynek's beyond close encounters of the first, second, third, and fourth kind. I had even groups in UFO photos where I broke them down into saucer-shaped objects, spherical-shaped objects, triangular-shaped objects, Saturn-shaped objects, oval-shaped objects, nocturnal lights, because I had imagery, thousands of photos that reflected this diversity of what supposedly was captured on film. And even then, working with Ground Saucer Watch, using computers to go ahead and try to separate fact from fiction, debunking, the real definition, not today's definition, which means I have a closed mind. About 95%, 96% of all the top photos we studied, we were able to explain them as being anything but unidentified. There was only a handful that remained unexplained, even to this day. Can't prove they're from outer space or Zeta Reticuli, but they remain unexplained and intriguing. Maybe someday we'll know. I'll come back to that point in another episode, because there's ways now using modern 3D computing imagery and technology to solve some of these UFO cases, which was not possible when Dr. Hynek and Project Blue Book and the Condon Committee were doing their earlier analysis and studies decades ago, because the technology did not exist. It's not their fault. So now that we've gone over what the difference is between ufology, UFOlogy, debunker, what a UFO believer is, okay? UFO Jesus said it was someone who's a UFO believer who's a Justin Bieber fan. No, again, I made up the term. I just told you what it means. It means, again, somebody who always says it's aliens. That's why, again, I have a problem with people who have this approach of post-disclosure. As I try to remind them of using basic English, post means after something has happened, okay? So if it hasn't happened, there's been no disclosure. There can't be post-disclosure, okay? think about it, folks. Again, basic logic. Something must happen for there to be a post whatever. If it hasn't happened, there's no post whatever. So stop calling yourself post-disclosure. Are you waiting for post-disclosure? Well, it's a two-step process, buddy. Step one is disclosure. And then after that happens, you've automatically got post-disclosure. The second after it happens, it'll take care of itself. Anyway. Okay, so we've got all this stuff going on. And then in the middle of this convoluted mess, we've got people who just like to mess with history, as in make it up. Or what they do is the U.S. government is in there using UFOs as a cover for very valid reasons, as in national defense security reasons. And they've done it before, folks. You can actually read some of the declassified stuff. You know, I was reminded of this again just a couple weeks ago when a little tiny news article appeared. And it reminded people that for at least 10 years now, roughly 10 years, let's use 10 years as a rough figure, the successor to the SR-71 has been flying secretly. And guess what? It has caused at least one UFO sighting, hello, if not many more. And it is the successor to the SR-71. They call it the SR-72. What's its real name? Well, we don't know. It officially doesn't exist. It's been flying for at least a decade, doing all kinds of gnarly, crazy, wonderful things. And it is causing UFO sightings, of course. And sometimes we think we see evidence of it flying during the day because it leaves rather unique contrails that are kind of in these donut roped ring shapes. Reminds you of a knotted rope. That's what people claim. Can't prove it one way or another till the thing is declassified and the specs are known. But it's not the only thing flying out there that is a super duper secret. China does it, Russia does it, we do it. It's going to continue. That's just the way the world functions. And all three of these countries, including India, they're just way behind everybody else. I'm not criticizing them, just stating a fact. What they're doing, led by the U.S., meaning the U.S. is leading this in some areas of technology, not all of them. And I know this from having reported on much of this from India for Daily Post and Daily World newspapers. Again, full-page specials on this, published over the years, matter of record out there. Doesn't matter what my critics say, can't take it out of there. And, of course, they don't know anything about these subjects. And they're not reporting on it, of course, especially in India where it's happening. And so the U.S. has a doctrine that basically they want to cover everything from space down to the bottom of the oceans, to have complete, total awareness of all those environments, because that's all the environments there are. And I know for a fact that for years, because I first learned about this when I was in the Czech Republic, when the Czech Republic, the Czechs had approved the government over the objections of most of its citizens. The project was later canceled when Obama became president. Make a long story short, they were getting ready to put a Doppler radar in there that was part of a missile defense system that was so sensitive that it could actually detect the rotation of a baseball from here to as far away as the planet Jupiter, over 600 million miles away. It was that sensitive. So no wonder when they activated the Aegis switch with the Nimitz group years ago, all of a sudden, all kinds of things appeared in the sky above them and in space, because this thing was very sensitive. And as they adjusted the software over the next few weeks, those UFOs just magically learned how to cloak themselves and just did whatever they want. We just didn't know any better, right? No, folks, never was that simple. The Nimitz encounters were a convolution of events, circumstances that, all came together at once. There was also a disinfo op that was in there, meaning it was a exercise to test some of the new hardware. And no, they didn't tell some of the pilots who were involved, but they did make a point to vector them in to get a quick glimpse of the action, in the same way that years ago when the SR-71 was painted silver, it used a buzz aircraft at Mach 5, and guess what would be reported? A fast streaking metallic UFO, and the pilots were right. Now, we'll come back to this over the next few months because it's going to take a while to unravel all this. But I will tell you, we'll start talking about it for the next show because we'll have it out there. Hopefully, it looks like it. Again, the upcoming Annie Jacobson expose book, and we'll explain why this is foundational and important. Join me next week.